Hello, my name is Dr. Yaya Sissoko. Today we are going to talk about Chapter 21, Application of the Consumer Choice Theory. So let's talk about three applications, part one. So the first application, do all demand curve slope downward. We can recall from the law of demand that whenever the price of the goods goes up, people buy less of that good. So the demand curve slope downward, so which is negative slope. So negative relationship between quantity demanded and the price of the good. However, we also have a Giffen good. Giffen good is defined as an increase in the price of the good so raise the quantity demanded. The price is going up, quantity demand of that good is going up. So the income effect dominates the substitution effect. So therefore, the demand curve for given goal will slope upward instead of sloping downward. It will be a positive slope or positive relationship between the price and the quantity demanded for given good. Figure 12 display a given good. So an increase in the price of potato rotate the budget constraint inward. We can see that the budget constraint will rotate inward down. So which will increase potato consumption if potato are given good. So when the price of potato rises, the consumer optimum will shift from point C to point A. In this case, the consumer will respond to a higher price of potato by buying less meat and more potato. We can see that with the optimum with the initial budget constraint, which is the blue line here, is at point C, which is with low price of potato. So on higher indifferent curve I1, with the increase in the price, the budget line will rotate down then. So from A to D here, so which is the new budget constraint, and then consumption will move from point C to point E, which is the new optimum with the higher price of a potato. At this new optimum, so consumer, which is on I2, which is lower, and difference curve than I1, consumer will be, consuming more potato, which is right here, more potato if you compare to this one, and less meat in that case. The second application of consumer theory choice is how do wages affect labor supply? So what is level supply? Level supply, is the willingness of people to work, or this willingness of people to work depend on the wage rate. At higher wage rate, more and more people will be willing to work. At lower wage rate, less and less people will be willing to work. And therefore, labor supply, reflects the trade-off between leisure and consumption. It's the bundle of two good. Labor supply deal with the bundle of two good, leisure and work. If you take more vacation, your leisure is up, then you get paid less, then you consume less. If you take less vacation, then you're working more, then you make more money. So therefore, labor supply is derived given the wage rate, and then also it depends on the budget constraint, how much the consumer can spend on the goods and services, and also determined by the optimum. Figure 13 display the work leisure decision. So this figure show carry budget constraint for deciding how much you work on at indifference curve and the consumption and leisure and the optimum. So if Katie decide to spend all her time leisure, so on leisure, meaning, so taking vacation or holiday, she'll be able to spend 100 hours. If she spend all her time working, she can consume $5,000. So you can see that in different scale 1, 2, 3 represent the preference of Kerry. Here in this case, so the higher the difference scale, the higher is a preference in that case. So given the budget constraint, then so we can see that Kerry, if Kerry spend $2,000 on consumption in 60 hours so on leisure time, she will not maximize utility. But if the optimum would be reached at this point where the budget line is touch the indifferent curve number 2 in that case. So how do wages affect labor supply? For instance, if there is an increase in wage, budget constraint will shift outward and become steeper. If you enjoy less leisure, so you'll be working more, and the labor supply curve will be upward sloping in that case, and therefore the substitution effect will dominate the income effect. On the other hand, if you enjoy more leisure, you're going to work less, and then the labor supply curve will be backward sloping, and then the income effect will dominate the substitution effect. Figure 14 display an increase in the wage. Panel A. In panel A, show, so summarize a person with these preferences. When the wage rises, the hour of leisure decrease and the hour of labor increase, and this will lead to, you know, a supply curve which is going to be upward sloping, positive slope. So we can see that the panel on the left here show that the consumer initial budget constraint BC1 and the new budget constraint BC2, which is the red line here, the blue line is the initial one, as well as the consumption, the consumer optimal choice overconsumption, and leisure at point A here, and point B, with point A is on I1, point B is on I2. So because in summary, because hours work equal to total hours available minus an hour of leisure, any change in leisure imply an opposite change in the quantity of labor supply. So in panel A, when the wage rises, consumption rises and leisure will fall, so resulting in the labor supply curve that slope upward or positive slope. You see that labor supply slope upward, higher wages, so imply our higher labor supply. Again, from figure 14, an increase in the wage, panel B. So panel B display for a person with these preferences, when the wage rises, so the budget constraint BC1, the blue line, will rotate up to BC2, the red line. So this will lead to, so increase in the initial optimal here, which is this point, as compared to, so the optimal this point. So the first optimal is on IC1, and then the second one is on IL and difference curve IC2. So this will lead to increase in leisure, hours, also increase in the consumption. So at the same time, when wage increases, So this will decrease hours labor. So labor supply will slope backward or downward sloping or negative slope. So we can see that in panel B, when the wage rises, both consumption ratio will rise and result in labor supply that slope backward or negative slope, downward sloping. The third and last application is how do interest rates affect household saving? So the income decision is about consume today or save for the future. So the decision is about bundling of two goods, consumption today and consumption in the future. So you have to look at the relative price. Here, the relative price will be the interest rate, and then you find out the optimum, the budget constraint, and indifference curve. Figure 15 display the consumption saving decision. So we have on the horizontal axis consumption when young, on the vertical axis we have consumption when old. So this figure show the budget constraint for the person deciding how much you consume in the two period his life, the indifference curve representing the preferences and the optimum. So we can see that when the person consumes all this money when younger, will be spending $100,000. When consume all this money when old, will be spending $110,000. So you have three different scale: I1, I2, and I3, and the optimum will be right here where it will consume $50,000 when young and $55,000 when old. So how do interest rates affect household saving? If there is an increase in interest rate, the budget constraint will shift outward and it becomes steeper, and consumption in the future rises. If consume less today, the substitute effect will dominate so the income effect and saving will increase. If you consume more today, so the income effect will dominate the substitution effect and you'll be saving less. Figure 16 display an increase in the interest rate. Panel A show higher interest rate raises saving. A higher interest rate rotate the budget constraint outward from BC1, the blue line, to BC2, the red line, resulting in lower consumption when young. Consumption will decrease when young, and then and that's higher saving. Okay? So on the other end, panel B, higher interest rate, lower saving. So a higher interest rate rotate the budget constraints outward from BC1, the blue line, to BC2, the red line. So which will result in higher consumption when young. Consumption will increase when young, and that lower saving. So we can see that in panel A, consumption when young fall and consumption when old rises. So to see, and in panel N, and this result in an increase in saving when young. But on panel B, consumption in both period rises. You can see that consumption in both period rises, and then this result in the decrease in saving when young. This is the end of chapter 21. Thank you.